I ask the trustee from the Prairie Star District, John Blevins, to come to the podium to present an important award.
It's my pleasure this morning to welcome you to the presentation of the 2011 Award for Distinguished Service to the Cause of Unitarian Universalism. This award is the highest honor bestowed by this association. It's given annually to a lay or professional leader who, over a period of time, is deemed by the UUA Board of Trustees to have made extraordinary contributions to the strength of our association and who exemplifies the values of our shared faith. The moderator, Jenny Corder, the Reverend Susan Ritchie, who is the trustee from the Ohio Meadville District, and I served as the board's committee to lead the selection process this year, and it's been my privilege to chair that group. And it's now my deep honor to introduce you to this year's recipient, the Reverend Victor H. Carpenter, Minister Emeritus of First Church in Belmont, Massachusetts. Victor. And to begin, our former moderator and past recipient of this award, Ms. Denny Davidoff, will share some of her thoughts on this selection.
More history. It was the final day of the 1992 General Assembly in Calgary, and a bunch of us from the UUA board and other UUA institutions had put together a responsive resolution to Bill Schultz's President's Report. The resolution exhorted the UUA and its member congregations to pursue a pathway to becoming an anti-racist and multicultural liberal religious movement. Now, our coalition was chock-a-block, filled with talent and passion. So who to be the first speaker in favor of our motion? Our choice was Vic Carpenter, and I remember that Kay Alameda and I had to rush to the annual lunch meeting of the UU Service Committee to pull Vic, who was the Service Committee's board chair and thus presiding, away from his meeting so he could be standing at the pro mic when moderator Natalie Gilbranson announced the introduction of our momentous resolution. We have been given a second chance, Vic intoned. I grabbed Leon Spencer's hand and I caught Mel Hoover's eye. It was a thrilling GA minute, and I'm lucky to have been there in 1992 and here in 2011 to honor my very dear friend, sailing companion, teacher of theology, and grief pastor extraordinaire, Victor H. Carpenter.
Thank you very much, Denny. And now Moderator Corder will share with us the actual award citation, after which Reverend Carpenter will share his thoughts with us on accepting the award.
Thank you, John. The citation that Victor will receive will read as by way of introducing you to him. Victor Carpenter found Unitarian Universalism as a young adult, following service in the United States Marine Corps. Recruited as a willing religious education teacher at Second Church Unitarian in Boston, Victor was identified by the Reverend Clayton Hale as a worthy piece of ministerial material. Hale felt that giving it a try was a good idea and arranged for Victor to serve as minister for the small Universalist church in Fryeburg, Maine, the summer before beginning Harvard Divinity School. It was in Fryeburg that Victor's heart would learn what his head already knew. Liberal religion is his home. Victor's time at Harvard included studies with Paul Tillich, James Luther Adams, and Conrad Wright. As a student minister, he served Christ Church Dorchester Unitarian and participated in the Benevolent Fraternity, the predecessor to the Unitarian Universalist Urban Ministry in Roxbury, Massachusetts. Following graduation in 1959, Victor was called by the congregation of the First Parish in Norwell, Massachusetts. During his service in Norwell, Victor created the South Shore Forum, featuring speakers like Henry Cabot Lodge, John Kenneth Galbraith, Paul Tillich, and Willard Uphouse. In 1960, half a world away, white South African police opened fire on a crowd of black protesters in Sharpeville Township, killing 69 people and injuring hundreds more, drawing international attention and condemnation by the United Nations. Victor reflects that he wondered, quote, how a liberal religious perspective fared without a democratic atmosphere, and what a minister would be called to do in such circumstances. There was one way to find out. In 1962, Victor, his wife Kathy, and son Tyler moved to South Africa. Nelson Mandela had just been convicted of treason and sent to Robben Island. Victor and Kathy aligned themselves with freedom seekers, opened the church to integrated worship, and brought in study groups on racism. Unbeknownst to Kathy, Victor also served covertly for the Defense and Aid Fund as a courier, delivering cash to lawyers serving prisoners and their families. He attracted attention from the authorities. He was required to report on a weekly basis about his movements and threatened with deportation. And the Carpenter family was growing. Daughters Gracia and Melissa were each born with significant special needs. With Victor's effectiveness diminished from increased police scrutiny and the girls needing greater medical care, the family returned to the United States, but not before spearheading a campaign to raise awareness about autism and founding the South African Society for Autistic Children, which connected families dealing with autism. Victor and Kathy's efforts led to the creation of a school and a house for students. Both were later named and dedicated to the memory of their daughter, Gracia. Victor continued his ministry in the United States, serving First Church in Philadelphia at a time when the interfaith community was speaking against the Vietnam War and Mayor Rizzo's corrupt government, at Arlington Street Church in Boston at the height of the busing controversy, in San Francisco during the AIDS epidemic, and then in Belmont and Dorchester, Massachusetts. Throughout his entire ministry, as you can tell, Victor has occupied a place on the leading edge of peaceful but determined protest. He has more arrests for civil disobedience than he can count. And has experienced firsthand the power of interfaith allies seeking justice. Victor knows that each passionate action for justice, no matter how small, creates the possibility of transformation. That 10 minutes spent talking with a state representative can change the life for a child or start a movement. He understands the connectivity of each action we take for justice, and he uses that sure knowledge to bring about change and inspire others to do the same. Victor has led efforts to stop wars, empower hotel and hospital workers, protect women's rights, halt corruption, protect victims, stop death to prisoners, instill accountability across cultures, and give voice to the most marginalized. His accessibilities work spans decades. But Victor is not a man of causes. Victor is a man who has chosen a religious path that calls him to participate in the world. Victor breathes most easily when he is working for justice with people for whom and with whom it makes a difference. His leadership is a gift and shining example to us all. Kathy, could you join us, please? Key to Victor's success is his ability to recognize what he does not know and his willingness to find ways to listen and learn. But he says that his primary guide and companion in that learning is Kathy Carpenter, who he describes as wife, friend, lover, confidant, editor, and life companion in the dedication of his book, Stations of the Spirit. To know Victor's commitment to live a faithful life and heed the call to justice is to know Kathy's heart as well. Victor, your lived faith exemplifies who we are called to be in the world. Your leadership offers a guide to all who will follow. And with deep appreciation, we now confer upon you the highest honor our association can bestow, the annual award for distinguished service to the cause of Unitarian Universalism.
Thank you, Jenny. I have to tell you that when Jenny first called me about this award, I thought it was a joke, and I hung up on her. She called me a second time. I said, I don't do business over the phone, and hung up on her again. The third time she called me, I said, stop bothering me. There's somebody at the door. No, she forgave me, and here I am. Thank you, Ginny. 3 times. Unitarian Universalist religious leaders, professionals, imagine themselves as change agents. We inspire to enlarge people's vision, even to change their life direction. And if we are lucky, we receive direct evidence of this accomplishment once in a lifetime, maybe twice. You changed my life, the young lawyer said to me. At the end of one of your sermons, you challenged the congregation, claiming that Unitarian for Unitarian Universalists, the relevant question is not, what do you believe? It's, what are you doing? What am I doing? He asked himself, and dissatisfied with his answer, he left the job with a prestigious law firm in Boston and he became an attorney for undocumented immigrants who seek refuge in this country. And so this, on our 50th anniversary, the question resonates, what are we doing? Our brief history is punctuated with moments when we did great things. We marched for justice in Selma. We voted for empowerment in Cleveland. We claimed a second chance to journey to wholeness in Calgary. And on each of these occasions, we rose above the ambiguity of our middle classness. We refused to trivialize our moral authority by asserting pronouncements of spirituality. And while acknowledging the virtue of tolerance, we refused to invoke it as a substitute for truth or justice. On each of these occasions, we presented compelling, convincing evidence of our claim to be a religion of wholeness, of reconciliation, and of universal redemption. For more than 50 years, it has been my privilege to uphold and extend this claim, testing its strengths against the tides of division and distraction, fashion and foolishness, and returning once again and again and again to that one absolutely imperative moral touchstone. What are we doing? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you all, and thank you, Reverend Carpenter, for the magnificent gifts you've given this world.